Hi and welcome to the pre-recording of the practical part of the exercise I gave at the machine learning and automatic differentiation workshop in Strasbourg in June 2026. This is going to be a three-part video series. In this first video or zeroth video, we're going to look at the Exponax solver. This is a Fourier spectral simulation tool in JAX that I wrote. Specifically, we're going to use its Navier-Stokes solver, and the zeroth part is meant to get you started with this. In the task thereafter, so in the first notebook, we're going to then look at data assimilation, and then thereafter into a neural hybrid corrector. Both of them, these subsequent notebooks, will use the differentiable abilities of Exponax. All right, so I started here by cloning the GitHub repository, and then under practical session, you find the Jupyter notebook. We're going to use this new Colab extension for VS Code, which allows you to run the code remotely on one of the Google servers to get access to a free GPU, which is really handy. The problem is, if we immediately connect to the Colab runtime, the syntax highlighting does not really work. So first, I usually start this with a local kernel which has all the dependencies installed. So I have that here. Let's give it a bit. That should first give me syntax highlighting, as you see here. Now, if I hover over things, it works. And now we can go to the Colab runtime, because here I'm running on my notebook and I don't have a GPU in here, and it definitely makes things go faster with a GPU. So we're gonna select another kernel, then we go to Colab, then we do new Colab server, GPU T4, that's the free GPU that they offer. It's still pretty beefy. We select the latest runtime. Here we can just hit enter to give the server a name. And after a while, we should then be able to select a kernel. And then we are connected. Then I will close the left bar. And since we are on the remote server, we have to reinstall the dependencies there, which is not too complicated. I left some commented out parts here with bash commands. So let's first run this cell. It takes a bit for the remote kernel to connect. It varies depending on the session, but yeah, now it runs. Okay, so we do the pip install, and as you see here, it's installing Exponax, so the solver we're going to use. And then we can go to the next cell and execute this here. So this is basically our imports. And then the first thing I want you to show you is that, so first of all, we will work in 2D with two-dimensional PDEs, so the two-dimensional Navier-Stokes equation. And we're going to work on a simplified representation. That's the unit cube, so essentially just a square domain, which is same length in both of the dimensions. And in order to represent this discretely on a computer, we're going to use a Cartesian grid. So essentially, we will have equidistantly spaced points in x and y direction. And we will also have a channel axis. So you could imagine that if you solve the Navier-Stokes equation, it has like usually two channels, two velocity channels. And as such, in order to represent the state, so essentially like a snapshot in time, we're going to use the convention C and N. So C for number of channels, N for number of points, and again, number of points. And really important here, we have two conventions. So first of all, that's the Equinox convention. We don't have a leading batch axis, which you might have in PyTorch. And this is a simplification of Exponax that we use the same resolution in both x and y. And just a quick note is that we do have periodic boundary conditions, which means that whatever exits the domain on the right re-enters on the left. And as such, one of the two boundary points is redundant, and we choose to keep the left. So the actual state would have another degree of freedom, but that is internally handled by Exponax for you. And so also if you use the plotting routines, that is just fine. And I mentioned we have the Navier-Stokes equation, but we use a specific form, which is in Stream-function-vorticity. And this essentially has the advantage that we only have one channel, which is the vorticity. All right, so we can initialize a state. Maybe in order to make that more interactive, let me clear all the outputs. And then, yeah, I guess we can probably also restart and then reinstall it. That should be just attempting to reinstall, but will probably do nothing. Yeah, as you see, it's already requirement fulfilled. Good, all right, then let's create initial condition. And here I will just use pixel-wise Gaussian noise. So I will use JAX random normal. Here I implicitly also set the resolution to 128. And then we have these built-in routines to plot the state. So essentially this will also do the periodic extension for us. And as you see here, it's noise, right? And then essentially exponax is built around the idea of a stepper. And if you watch the lecture, you maybe remember that I made the point there that I think there's a strong similarity between neural networks and numerical simulators. And this I also tried to ingrain into this exponax library. So essentially what we will do is we will instantiate something which allows us to step in time. Specifically, we're going to use this Kolmogorov flow vorticity. And if you want, feel free to look at the doc string a bit. It explains what is going on. So we will supply 4 positional arguments and then 2 keyword arguments. And we're going to use some sub-stepping in order to stay stable. All right, if you then take a look at it, you will see it's just an Equinox module. And essentially, you can then call it like a neural network. So you give it an input and it produces an output. Specifically, it steps in time and it does so by the corresponding delta t of 0.1. All right, so let's do one step and take a look. And we see, well, it's still noise, right? And we could then do a for loop to do a couple more steps. So we do some autoregressive rollout. So let's do 30 steps. And as you see, okay, now taking a bit to be expected, right? 128 cube is, not cube, sorry, 128 square is not a small resolution, 10 seconds. Let's take a look at it. And here we see now it changed. So this is typical for the Kolmogorov flow. We will start from some noise and then we will build up some layers. And these layers will essentially break up at some point, and then this will give some 2-dimensional, in quotation marks, turbulence. As we see, that was rather slow. So let's use a JIT compilation. And we, of course, need to use the Equinox filter JIT here. And so let's run this. And now we have 1000 steps. So it's 30 times more than we had before, but we JITted it. And now it's only 4 seconds. So it's approximately half the time for 30 times as many steps. So again, shows how important the JIT compilation in JAX is. Good. Let's take a look at this state. And this looks already vorticity-like, right? So essentially we have in red, if I'm not mistaken, should be vortices, so basically vorticity counterclockwise rotating, and blue should be clockwise rotating. So red is mathematically positive, blue is mathematically negative. So, but there's one more nice tool in exponax which we're gonna make handy use of in the next notebooks, is that we have this repeat command, which essentially does the same what we do here, but it pushes the for loop also into the compiler. And now let's do 3000 steps, and that should be running, yeah, I mean, it's more than 4 seconds, but I hope it's less than 12. Let's see. Yeah, it's less than 12. So it's not significant here, but it will become more significant under different circumstances. And if we take a look at this state, yeah, looks pretty much the same like this. So we are definitely on the turbulent manifold. Then another handy command is exponax.rollout. So this is essentially gonna roll out in time, but also save the intermediate frames. That's why we also have this include in it. So we roll out for 50 time steps. Let's do this, and then we can take a look at the shape of this array. And now this is 51, 1, 128, 128. So we have 50 plus 1 time steps. Let's create an animation. There's also a command for this, and then we're going to display it inside the Jupyter notebook. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's take let's wait. Okay, there we go. So now we have an animation, and doesn't that look beautiful? So we do have the classical Kolmogorov flow here with its vortices moving around, and so it's a forced turbulence. So there's constantly energy being injected into the system, and then it moves across the scales and is eventually dissipated. I must say it's not full 3D turbulence, but it's a nice test bed, and I guess it's also a good study ground for this exercise. And just to keep in mind, like we did like 3,000 warm-up steps in roughly, where was it, 10 seconds, and then rolled out for 50 steps in like 0.5 seconds. So the solver is pretty fast, especially on a GPU. Arguably it's a small resolution, but it would still work pretty fast if you go to higher ones. So as some things you could do if you want, is that you can change the diffusivity. So where are we? Here. And this effectively changes the Reynolds number of the flow. So if you go to lower diffusivities, so for instance 1e minus 3, and then you would have an effective Reynolds number here if you remain with a 2 pi domain size of 1 over 1e minus 3, which would be 1000. And then you would notice that the vortices are like getting smaller, and you would have way more structure in there. And you could put this to tests to even higher ones. At some point, you would probably realize that you would need higher resolution. Then for higher resolution, you might need smaller time steps, and so on and so forth. So there's definitely some trade-off in there, and I would encourage you to play around with it if you have some time for that. And that is quite cool. So you can also change the initial condition. So for instance, use a different one. So where did we have it? Here we had it. Instead of pixel-wise Gaussian noise, you could do some structured initial conditions. Feel free to take a look at the documentation of Exponax for that. But the point is, eventually you will see that since this is a forced example, or it is a forced dynamic, it will converge, or it will not converge, but it will essentially burn into the same turbulent manifold eventually. All right, thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one, where we're then going to look at data assimilation.